Well, it is another hot day today, so I'm going to keep hydrated by drinking some milk and leave cookies for Santa? That doesn't make any sense. It's not even Christmas. I don't even celebrate Christmas. Anyways, it doesn't say how many cookies I should leave, so this complete 2 1/10 of a cookie plus 1 4/10 of a cookie. Wow. That's silly. And anyways, I don't know how to add decimals, so I don't really need to listen to this. Yes, you do. I guess I should learn how to add decimals so I can leave cookies for Santa. Let's do a quick review about reading mixed numbers as tenths. So 5 3/10 is the same as 53 tenths. 1 5/10 is the same as 15 tenths. 4 9/10 is the same as 49 tenths. Okay, now we can use that knowledge and apply it to this addition question. So it says 2 1/10 plus 1 0/10. How can we convert that all into tenths? Well, 2 1/10 is the same as 21 tenths. 1 0/10 is the same as 10 tenths. Now 21 plus 10, that's easy, that's 31. So 31 tenths is the same as 3 1/10. Okay, so we can add that way. We can convert it into tenths and then convert it back. Let's try another example. 1 4/10 plus 2 3/10. 1 4/10 is the same as 14 tenths. 2 3/10 is the same as 23 tenths. Okay, so 14 plus 23, that's what? 37 tenths. And then we can convert that back into decimal form, 3.7, or 3 7/10. Now I want you to try. For each of the addition problems, convert each of the numbers into tenths, and then add them, and then convert them back. Press pause to try it out, press play to check your answers. Answer checking time. Let's start in the top left-hand corner. 3.4 plus 1.5. Well, 3.4 is the same as 34 tenths. 1.5 is the same as 15 tenths. Add them together and you get 49 tenths, which is the same as 4.9. In the top right, we have 2.6 plus 4.1. Well, 2.6 is the same as 26 tenths. 4.1 is the same as 41 tenths. Add them together, 67. And 67 tenths is the same as 6.7. In the bottom left, 8.5 plus 1.2. 8.5 is the same as 85 tenths. 1.2 is the same as 12 tenths. Add them together, that's 97 tenths. And convert that back into decimal form, that's 9.7. And finally, 3.7 plus 4.2. 3.7 is the same as 37 tenths. 4.2 is the same as 42 tenths. Add them together, that's 79 tenths. Convert back to decimals, it's 7.9. Alright, so that's one way of adding, but it's a kind of a weird roundabout way. Here's another way. What if we just line up the digits so that the tenths are lined up with the tenths and the ones are lined up with the ones? If we do it that way, then we can add the tenths to the tenths, add the ones to the ones, and then write a final answer. Let's give it a try. Let's add the tenths first. 4 tenths plus 3 tenths. Let's imagine this with cookies. 1, 2, 3, 4 tenths of a cookie. And then we're adding 3 more. 1, 2, 3. So that's 7 tenths altogether. And now we're going to add the wholes. 1 plus 2. 1 cookie plus 2 more. 1, 2. And that equals 3 cookies. 3.7. So that's another way of doing it. We can add the tenths, we can add the ones, and then we can put it all together in the end. The important thing is that you line up the digits so that the tenths are lined up with the tenths and the ones are lined up with the ones. Otherwise, you might add the wrong place value. Let's take a look at some examples. Some of these have the digits lined up properly, some of them don't. And when they're not lined up properly, you're not adding the right place value. You need to make sure you're adding the tenths to the tenths, the ones to the ones, the twos. You need to make sure you're adding the tenths to the tenths, the ones to the ones, the tens to the tens, the hundreds to the hundreds. So there are some of these that have the digits lined up properly. I want you to try and figure out which ones they are. Okay, let's see if you got that right. This one has them lined up properly. This one has them lined up properly. What about the other ones? Well, question A, 3.5 plus 4. 4 is not lined up with the other ones, right? This is 4 ones, but it's lined up with the tenths. In question C, 192.8 plus 154, the 4 is in the ones place, but it's lined up with the tenths place. The 5 is in the tens place, but it's lined up with a decimal point, which isn't the place at all. And then the hundreds is lined up with the ones place. You can't add together to the ones and the tens to the tens and the hundreds to the hundreds if they're not lined up properly. That's not going to work. What about D? In D we have 4.8 plus 12.1. The tenths place over here is lined up with the decimal point over here. That makes it hard to add anything at all. What do you notice about the two questions that have the place value lined up properly? What else lines up properly? The decimal point. Take a look. In question B, the decimal point is lined up with the decimal point. In question E, the decimal point is lined up with the decimal point. Why is that? Well, because the tenths are always to the right of the decimal point, and the ones are always to the left of the decimal point. So if you line up the decimal point properly, all the other place values will line up properly as well. And when you line up the decimal point properly, then you can just add it like a normal number, like you would usually do in addition, remembering to keep the decimal point in the answer. I'll show you the first example, and then I want you to try out the rest. So here we have 12.1 plus 4.8. First thing you want to do is line up the decimal point in the answer. 1/10 plus 8/10 is 9/10. Now let's add the wholes. 12 plus 4, 16. And we know the answer is correct because we've lined up the tenths, the ones, the tens, and of course we lined up the decimal point. Okay, I want you to try this one. Now you may be asking, Mr. Hurley, is this lined up properly? I don't know. The answer is yes. This is 3.5 plus 4. Where's the other decimal point in this one? Well, it's not there, but you know that 4 is the same as 4 and 0/10 because 0 means nothing. So you could just put a decimal point here if you wanted. Either way, they are lined up. Alright, press pause to try that out, press play to check your answer. Alright, let's check your answer. First, let's put the decimal point in the answer lined up with the other decimal points, although one of them is invisible, but whatever. There it is, lined up. And let's add the tenths. 5/10 plus nothing is still 5/10. And then 3 plus 4 is 7. Now I want you to try this one. As you can see, decimal points are lined up, so press pause to try it out, press play to check your answer. Okay, let's check your answer. Let's stick in our decimal point in the answer first. Now let's add the tenths. 7 plus 5 is 12. We can't fit 12 in there, so we're going to have to put 2 there and regroup the 1. Okay, and then we add the wholes. 1 plus 3 is 4. What about this one? Is the decimal point lined up? Yes, it is, because 154 is the same as 154.0. Press pause to try it out. Press play to check your answer. Answer checking time. Put a decimal point on there for where the answer is going to be. It's lined up with the other decimal point. Add the tenths. 8/10 plus nothing is 8/10. And then 2 plus 4 is 6. 9 plus 5 is 14. Put the 4, carry the 1. 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 346. What about this one? Are the decimal points lined up properly? Yes, they are. Press pause to try it out. Press play to check your answer. Answer checking time. Put a decimal point that's lined up with the other ones. Add the tenths. 7/10 plus 3/10 is, well, it's 10, so we carry the 1. Now we do the wholes. 1 plus 4 plus 6 is 11. 1 plus 5 plus 1 is 7. And then 1 plus nothing is still 1. 171.0. Or you could just say 171. What about subtraction? How would you subtract mixed numbers with decimals? Let's try the same way that we did before when we convert things into tenths. 4.5 is the same as 45 tenths. 2.3 is the same as 23 tenths. Subtract them, you get 22 tenths, and then 22 tenths is the same as 2.2. Well, you could do it that way, but I like the way where we line up the decimal point better, so let's try it that way. Here I have 4.5, and I have 2.3, and I've lined up the decimal point, as you can see. Let's start by subtracting the tenths. We have 5 tenths, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we're going to take away 3. 1, 2, 3. We have 2 left, so 2 tenths. Now let's add the wholes. You have 4 whole cookies, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we take away 2. 1, 2. So how many whole cookies do we have left? 2. So our total number is 2.2, or 2 and 2 tenths, which is what we have in the cookie picture. All right, we can subtract the same way as we did by adding. Line up the tenths with the tenths, line up the decimal point with the decimal point, line up the ones with the ones. Now I want you to try it. Press pause to try it out, press play to check your answer. Answer checking time. Decimal point is lined up, so we put 1 over there. And we subtract the tenths. 7 minus nothing is still 7. 6 minus 3 is 3. Now I want you to try this one. Are the decimal points lined up? Yes, they are. Press pause to try it out. Press play to check your answer. Let's check your answer. First, put the decimal point. Now, 9 tenths minus 7 tenths. 2 tenths left. Now let's subtract the wholes. 4 ones minus 1 1 is 3. 4 minus 1 is 3. 3.2, or 3 and 2 tenths. Now try this one. Is the decimal point lined up? Yes, it is. Press pause to try it out. Press play to check your answers. Do you get this one right? First you put the decimal point under the other ones, then you subtracted the tenths. 6 tenths minus 3 tenths is 3 tenths. Now you subtract the rest in the wholes. 2 minus 5, oh, you can't do that, can you? Okay, we're going to have to regroup. So look at the tens place, and we're going to regroup. So yes, we can regroup from the 9. 9 is going to be 8 now, and we're going to regroup one of those 10s over to 2. So 2 plus 10 is 12. 12 minus 5? Yep, 12 minus 5 is 7. And then 8 minus 4 is 4. And then 3 minus nothing is 3. So 347.3, or 347 and 3 tenths. What about on a number line? Can we add and subtract on a number line? There are so many different ways you can add and subtract on a number line with decimals. There's the obvious way. You just put the two numbers on the number line. So you could do 1.6 plus 0.9 in this example. Travel 1.6 along the number line, and then travel 0.9 along the number line, and then there's your answer, 2.5 or 2 and 5 tenths. Here's another one, 2.4 plus 1.0. Make 2.4 go along the number line, and then go 1.0 more. And then add it up. It is 3.4. There are other ways you could do it. You could try breaking it up the same way I broke it up when I was adding the tenths together and then the ones together. 1.4 plus 2.3, we could go 1, 2, there's the wholes, and now I can do the tenths. 0.4, 0.3. And the answer is 3.7. How else could you do it? Well, I could travel 1.4 along the number line, and then go 2 more, and then go 0.3 more. Where did I get that from? 2 more, 0.3 more. There you are. You end up in the same place. And you should, because it's the same question. What about subtracting? With subtracting, you have to start with the first number and then travel backwards for the second number. So I could start at 2.7, and now I'm going to break up 1.4 into ones and tenths. First I'm going to travel back 1, and then I'm going to travel back 0.4. There I am. It's 1.3. How else could you solve subtraction problems? Well, in this case, I'm starting at 3.9, and then I'm going to travel back 2.5. And I'm going to travel back 2.5, breaking 2 into 1 and 1, and then break 0.5 into 1.5. So here we go. First, let's travel back 0.5. Here we go. And now let's travel back 2. 1, 2. Put our star. And now we've subtracted on a number line. 1.4. Now I know a lot of different ways how to add and subtract mixed numbers expressed as decimals. Let's see if I can solve my cookie problem.
Okay, Santa or mysterious ghost spirit or whoever you are, I need to figure out how many cookies to give you now. So you asked for 2 1/10 plus 1 4/10. Let's start by adding the tenths. It first says I need 1/10, so I'm going to put 1/10. And over here it says I need to have 4/10, so I'm going to add 4/10. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to squish those all together. How many tenths is that altogether? 5/10. Okay, now I'm going to add the wholes. Over here I have 2 whole cookies. 1, 2. And over here I have 1 whole cookie. 1. So that's 3 whole cookies. So how many cookies am I leaving for the mysterious Santa ghost person? I am leaving 3 5/10 of a cookie. Well, there you go. I hope you're happy. You're welcome. Well, now I've left the correct amount of cookies for the Santa ghost creature, so hopefully it will leave me alone for a while. And what I want you to do is to complete page 233 of your Jump Math book. And while you do that, I'm going to call Ghostbusters because I really need to get rid of this serious haunting problem. Have fun!